Hello everybody, I'm Jillian Sakovits and a very warm welcome to Full-Time Review. It is presented by Amazon Prime. Coming up on today's show, we're going to discuss a bit of a buzzkill this weekend, to put it lightly, as the NWSL's biggest league game of the season so far turned into a bit of a fiasco. On Saturday, the Shield leaders, by a long shot, the Kansas City Current, were taking on, at the time, second in the table, the Orlando Pride, the reigning champions of the NWSL, and due to excessive heat in Kansas City, the top of the table clash was delayed over 3 hours. Kickoff was set for 3:12 local time, and this game did not begin until 6:23. The players warmed up as expected for the original time slot, and that was one of not two, but 3 times that both squads came out and completed warm-ups. The match was slated to be on the big CBS time slot, and in the end, this game, the biggest of the season, could only be found on CBSSports.com and NWSL Plus. A missed opportunity, as this time slot of 4 p.m. Eastern Time was to accommodate national television. As the WOSO community got extremely familiar as well with the wet bulb globe temperatures, the NWSL itself is once again coming under question for not preemptively avoiding what some may call an embarrassing situation. On today's show, we're going to be talking to Danielle Russell, Vice President of KC Blue Crew Supporters Group, to hear about what the heat delays were like from a fan's point of view. And then we're going to be joined by the Athletics' Melanie Anzidei to hear more about the game itself and how the players and coaches reacted to the situation. Let's get into it. I am joined now by the Vice President of the KC Blue Crew Supporters Group, Danielle Russell. Danielle, hello, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Here's what happened at CPKC Stadium over the weekend, where the heat hit 96 plus degrees. Per the NWSL, a match cannot start until the temperature drops to 92 degrees. You were there. Can you walk me kind of through your day as you arrived at the stadium with the idea to watch a game that had a 3 p.m. Eastern time kickoff?
Yeah. Well, I would probably start the night before because I think we all, part of Blue Crew, we have a Discord server and all that. And so we spent the whole day before and day of like, here's some best practices, drink a lot of water, get some electrolytes. We were literally sharing safety tips like we were about to run a marathon. We do tailgates at a bar before, and nobody was drinking, which, sports and soccer, that's like, you have a beer and all that. Everyone's just chugging electrolytes. So it's really like a whole preparation just to watch a game. And then we get to the stadium, we set up. We're like, well, maybe this breeze is okay. Maybe it's going to be okay. The sun wasn't in our section yet. Just preparing for what we knew was coming. I think that as somebody in the Midwest, we know what it's like. We know what the heat's going to be like, and we knew how hard it was going to be. So we're, just spending our time like, all right, it's going to get serious. We're going to have fun, but it's about to get serious.
By the time we saw walkouts, it wasn't the crowd that one expected for what, to this point in mid-August, is the game of the season.
I was there from about 1 to about 9 o'clock. I love that stadium to death. I never want to be there that long ever again. It was actually pretty full. It's really funny. The East stands, which I think shows on TV a lot, it's opposite of the press box. The sun was directly on it. And so if you looked over, it was all empty except for one corner that was in the shade, and every single one of those seats were full. It was just everybody in the concourse behind it. And so it was, a lot of people got there early. Everyone was excited, but they're like, I'm not getting to my seat until I have to.
Understood. Can you talk to me a little bit about the theater that was the wet bowl being rigorously checked every 15 minutes for about 3 hours?
Yeah, it was honestly hilarious. I think at the beginning we were all having fun with it because it was still early on, maybe a little delirious, but like we're still, it's still a vibe. And so we, every 15 minutes, a whole group, the GMs and everyone would go out. They stood there a while. The bulb was there the whole time, and then they would walk back. A couple times, our GM would give a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but they have to check it a couple times. And so back. And then out. And so, yeah, theater is the exact way to put it. It really was a theater of, oh, it's time. The camera, people zoomed in on it. So you could actually, they tried to like zoom in on the reading of it just to, have fun in the stadium.
How well were things being communicated at the stadium?
That was one thing from the team that was kind of lacking, is they did try with the PA announcer, which is kind of hard to hear from the concourse. And I think a lot of people were on the concourse. And so I do think that the communication, there was an attempt. I don't think it was very well done. I know if it was on social media, I don't think it was on Blue Sky. And I know a lot of us have left X/Twitter. So if they were doing updates there, we didn't see it. The Current has an app that you use in stadium. That's how we scan our tickets. We can order food from it. And they'll do push alerts. And we weren't getting push alerts. And I think that would have been a really effective way to get that information. And it wasn't happening.
Danielle, what was the general consensus amongst the fans of what could have been done differently in the future?
I think not scheduling at this time. When the schedule came out, every single one of us circled and were like, this is horrible. This is a bad idea. We all knew it. February is when the schedule came out. I think we all circled and were like, this is terrible. It's going to go poorly. This is madness. And so, going up to there, and then it was somehow worse than we imagined. We knew it was going to be bad, but it was somehow worse. And so I think the best way to avoid it would have been not scheduling for 3 p.m.
The NWSL did come out with a statement over the weekend, so I just want to read it real quick. The league aims to play matches as scheduled whenever safely possible. While forecasts guide planning, we primarily rely on real-time, on-site weather data to make informed decisions in accordance with our inclement weather policies and protocols. Based on those inputs, the league made the decision to delay today's match. What I saw on social media, people pointing out, is this was the forecast, that temperatures were going to be really high. What's your reaction to that, Danielle?
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, the forecast said it was going to be really high. We've been in a heat advisory for days. You could have predicted this forecast again in February.
Danielle, how were people staying hydrated, safe, shaded?
I think people were doing the best they could. I know fan safety, for me, that's kind of where our focus was. Blue Crew, we were proactive. We brought cooling towels, so we had some of those available, and the team would provide us with coolers for that, making sure we have water from the supporter section, especially as that sun came over our section. I think the team did the best they could. I heard of a couple things running out in the stadium. I did hear the Gatorade ran out, but for the most part, I think things went really well, as good as it can. But I do know PJ Green did post today that he can confirm one person did go to the hospital in an ambulance. So like as much as they did their best, being there was unsafe. And so having the game was unsafe. And I think that comes down to the league. I think that the league put everyone in a very unsafe place. And then just little things like my voice right now. I learned that heat can affect your vocal cords. And so it's like little things, headaches, everyone's dehydrated. And not just us. I know that I was talking to a friend in Portland when they had a midway week game, and their capos are like, it took me days to recover. So I think this is something that's unfortunately it's not unusual. It's just I'm experiencing it right now, and other people have as well.
On a positive note, how are we feeling about the Kansas City Current right now?
I am a very superstitious sports fan, so I'm going to knock on some wood right here. But I feel really good. It's been a great season. It's been exceeding our expectations. I think that as fans, we're all having fun. I think we're really excited about the product. It's been fun.
That's so great. Okay, Danielle, thank you so very much. Enjoy the rest of the season, and thank you for your time.
All right, producer Theo here to get into what was billed as the top of the table clash between the Kansas City Current and the Orlando Pride. But quickly, Melanie, dissolved into probably one of the more farcical matches we've seen in recent weeks or recent years in the NWSL. It finished 0-0, but Melanie, this game may be remembered for what was a rather lengthy, over 3-hour heat delay. Take us to Kansas City and what happened on Saturday.
The game probably made headlines for everything we didn't expect it to be making headlines for, completely. It's interesting how the game was supposed to start at 4 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. local, which anyone who's ever watched football or played football is around the game knows that that is a brutal time to start in mid-August, and quickly proven just that with how the game was delayed. The initial delay actually came from a run over of a WNBA match, which would have delayed the match for about 5 minutes, I believe it was. And then we start seeing, on socials that there is a weather delay because of the heat, which quickly turned into maybe a 45-minute delay, a couple-hour delay, because as we saw, the weather didn't really drop below the threshold that the NWSL needs for a game to kind of start up again.
If I was to wave a magic wand, Melanie, and make you commissioner of the NWSL, how would you have approached this CBS afternoon slot, 4 p.m. Eastern slot, when there's going to be a 95-degree Fahrenheit temperature at kickoff?
In a perfect world, we don't have 3 p.m. kickoff games in mid-August or now approaching late August. But as we know, that is a very complex decision that kind of relies on the reality that, the NWSL wants to be before as many eyes as it can be, and it wants to be at an ideal time to what broadcasters see as an ideal window for the most viewers, right? Ironically enough, CBS didn't end up having this on, and it's interesting because then it goes into like, what audience are you competing with? Like if American Soccer League take a gamble, will the American fans still watch the games? Because I think CBS was showing the preseason game of the Giants and the Jets, which was down the street from me, ironically, but I had very little interest in that. So what audience are you, the balancing the audience, the viewership? It's kind of one of those tricky things because I guess the NWSL doesn't want to go up against an NFL, of course, and then the rights for the broadcasters is just tough decisions to make on that end. But to what you said, if I could wave a magic wand, I would make sure that no games start at this time. It could keep a lot of people and a lot of fans, because the fans were also in the stadium for 3.5 hours.
That bit's crazy to me.
In the heat, I think I saw clips or images of on the Jumbotron saying, if you're having issues, please message this number. As a fan, if you're having issues with the heat or concerns of any kind, we'll help you. So the safety of players and also of fans, like just being out there in the heat. It's just one of those things where I don't think this is changing. This is something that's going to continue being an issue, and it will be interesting to see how the league, or even behind the scenes, what players are kind of saying, maybe not directly out loud, but maybe some of the conversations behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, and just to give a couple more facts there, the wet bulb temperature was the kind of the key star in all of this. It was quite amazing, the close-ups we got, both on the broadcast and in the stadium, of the wet bulb thermometer sort of being the star of the show. And everyone, the health, the officials, the league was waiting for that number to drop below 92.3. That is what has been deemed safe for the players to compete in a soccer match. So until that wet bulb temperature went below 92.3, the game was not going to start. So, when you talk about what made this delay so long and so complicated, and we can hear a little bit from the players and coaches who spoke about that, was that there was a moment where I think there was a little bit of cloud cover and the temperature actually went down to 91.3, but then the clouds went away and it went back up again. So the players were sort of coming in and out of warm-ups, and no one really knew what was going on until we've eventually, around 5 o'clock, got that kind of, we're pushing the game all the way back to 7 Eastern.
No, it is a difficult situation, and we fell into the trap a little bit. Going to KC in August and on a 3 o'clock kickoff, it's not putting the players' well-being, first hand. So, yeah, we got the warm up. It was extremely hot. It was too hot to play, and we would have liked that decision to have been made earlier on.
Melanie, turning attention to the game, though, it's probably fair to say that after a 3.5 hour delay, after the players kind of warming up and warming down, the game itself was, not what we'd hoped for, right? It really lacked a bit of excitement. There was not a shot on target until the 94th minute.
Flacco spoke to this about, he was asked, like, was it because of the heat? Was it because of the delay of the game? What did you think went into this? And, from his perspective, it was that it's just, two of the best teams with the best defenses in the league going up against each other. And this is kind of what happens when that, you have less shots, maybe less opportunities. I mean, very early on in the game, we unfortunately saw Barbara Banda kind of exit the match. And that was, as a result of Temwa Chawinga, a very strategic, very successful defensive play there. Nothing that she did wrong, to injure Barbara or anything like that. But it was just, an example of, the class and the master class of defense that was on display in this game. But you still can't help wonder whether the heat, the delays, how things would have played out differently if the players knew from the beginning, we're not going to play this game until this time because it makes the most sense, because we know that the heat isn't going to drop, all these reasons. Maybe we would have had a very different game.
I do think that we should give Orlando some flowers. They became the first team to shut out the KC Current at CPKC Stadium. 19 games where the KC Current have scored at least one goal. Orlando got the clean sheet today. So that was quite impressive. Did we get anything from the league about their decision to not postpone the game or not move the timing, not move the slot?
One of the first things I did was text them and say, hey, any comment on this? And, they did say that they were just kind of going up against this kind of hour by hour. So they were trying to make the decision as, I guess, close to match time as possible. And as we heard from Seb Hines, maybe there could have been a decision that was made ahead of time that was considering the data that was out there. We did know it was going to be very hot at this time. And it sounds like it was kind of a gamble. Maybe there are certain things in the weather that will drop the temperature. 92.3, that's still really hot to play football.
Right.
I wouldn't want to play. I was, during the weather delay on the CBS broadcast, they were talking about, you have former players like that talking about their experiences with extreme weather and how their cleats were melting on the turf. Like, that was the detail that stuck with me.
Thanks, Melanie.
So, Wet Bulb, thank you for your service, but I hope I do not see you again this NWSL season. And in case you didn't know, The Athletic has partnered with Yahoo Sports to provide free best-in-class coverage of women's sports. That's right, go check out the Women's Sports Hub at sports.yahoo.com/women-sports. I'm Jillian Sakovits. Thanks, as always, so very much for listening to Full-Time Review. And Full-Time does not happen without our podcast producer, Theo Lloyd-Hughes, our video producer, Leah Griffin, and our esteemed executive producer, Emily Olson. We'll see you later this week.